Well, this morning's weather is quite benign across much of the country. This is the 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 7 o'clock Central Time, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time surface map. And you can see a region of organized, unsettled weather over the coastal Carolina region and then into the central part of the Florida Peninsula. We'll see that on the radar in just a minute. This is composed of quite a number of and continuing to flourish convective elements that'll be more obvious on the satellite movie than it is on this instantaneous image. Then there's a weak cyclone headed mostly east-southeastward across southern Quebec into New York State, into central New England, and it's dropped a few snow showers. I think it was snowing in the Boston area this morning lightly. There may be more today, but it won't accumulate too much as this storm kind of quickly zips off to the east. Over the central United States, though it's not a really strong region of high pressure, there's almost no sea level pressure gradient. So the distance between successive isobars across the central part of the United States is huge, and that implies that there's not much of a strong difference in pressure across the region, which in turn is the reason why the winds will be quite light today. So we should have a really nice day today. The sun is going to be brightly shining. There won't be any wind to sort of mix things up and maybe cool down the heating that's going on in the lowest part of the atmosphere. We'll lose some more snow. I wish I'd had a time lapse out a couple of windows in my house to just watch that over the last few days. That'd be interesting, but I didn't do that. But anyway, broad region of nice, benign early March weather. Certainly compared to what could be the case, as we just heard about in the weather in history, you can have 30 inches of snow in the high plains this early in March. That's not the case this year. And then the only other really organized weather system is another weak system that's just to the southwest of the Bight of California, the LA portion of and Santa Barbara portion of the state. And we're going to see on the radar this region of precipitation moving gradually onshore into Southern California. It turns out that the month of March is the coldest month of the year at Los Angeles at 850 millibars, the level that we often look at the temperatures on Fridays. So that's kind of a curious aspect of the climate down in Southern California. That means that they tend to be a little bit more prone to showery activity at this month than they are any other time of the year. And we're seeing a little bit of evidence of that this morning. Okay. So here's the surface temperatures around the country at the same time, roughly the same time, 7:10 our time, 8:10 Eastern time. There's no place that's really cold. A few exceptions. Maybe if you're in Goodland, Kansas, you don't like 18 degrees. A couple of the places in the panhandle of Texas, Lubbock and Amarillo, are right around or just below freezing. So it's not bitterly cold. It may be colder by a degree or two than normal in a few places, but it's a pretty nice morning across much of the country. And these temperatures in the broad midsection of the country will respond to the sunshine quite readily and rapidly during the day today. So it should be a pretty nice day widespread across the United States. It's really warm in the peninsula of Florida. It's 49 at Jacksonville. That's kind of a continental climate, but when you get to Tampa or Miami, you're into the mid-60s and low 70s already at 8 a.m. So really nice days in the offing in those locations. So here's our satellite movie over the last several hours over the continental United States and adjacent waters. And you can see all of the features that I mentioned on the surface map. First of all, here's that cluster of, see these little almost cotton ball-y looking elements to the clouds. Those are the development of thunderstorms, little convective elements. And so we see this whole collection of clouds and convective elements propagating to the east across the Carolinas. And there's continued regeneration of convection, little popcorn-looking elements in the clouds on the western side of this. That's characteristic of a highly convective weather system. This isn't particularly well organized, and it seems to actually be occurring at the tail of this dramatic cold front structure that's associated with this cyclone or this circulation maxima that's just north of Newfoundland in Canada. And you can see that's kind of connected in this satellite image. So that's the weather that's now moving off the East Coast. So even those locations that started the morning with rain are going to have very little for the rest of the day. And there's a little bit of snow that was going across southern New England. Here's that cyclone just off the Bight of California. You can see it's pretty small in scale, and it's making its slow northeastward progress. So it's bound to bring some light showery rains to the southern part of the state. It looks like it might already be showering in San Francisco. We can't see obliquely off the map, and we'll see that in a minute. But the central part of the continent is just about cloud-free everywhere. So a really nice day is on the docket for us today. Here's the radar summary across the country, and really one can only see the activity over the Carolinas, the coastal Carolina region in central Florida. But notice it's speckled with a lot of red and orange, and that indicates heavy convection, so thunderstorms, heavy downpours, maybe some hailstones, and so on. And that populates the whole collection of precipitating elements in that location. You can see a little bit of the snow in New England gradually tapering to nothing. And then here's our precipitation coming into radar range as the storm moves closer to the bite in California. And that's going to put the damper on the weather in places like that during the day today. Okay. And then let's look at the West Coast satellite image. And that is right in this particular image. And so you can see there's our storm off the coast of California. Look at how much smaller in scale this thing is compared to this beast that's rotating here in the Gulf of Alaska. And we've got this really impressive cloud street on the front edge of it going right up between the former Queen Charlotte Islands and the northwestern tip of Vancouver Island into central British Columbia coast. This is a rainforest, a temperate rainforest. It's probably raining like crazy there today. Miserable place to be today. Otherwise, quite beautiful. Look at these popcorn-looking clouds, and there's one of them that even organizes into an obvious comma shape, and that's rotating counterclockwise. That's a separate little cyclonic disturbance that's developed in the exceptionally cold air that's spilled out over the northern part of the Gulf of Alaska. The temperatures a couple of miles or 3 miles above the ground in this location are like minus 40 degrees C. The water itself is about maybe between 8 and 10 degrees C, so it's a really, really unstable situation here, and we'll talk more about that as we get further along in our series of lectures here in Chapter 3. But you can see the manifestation of some of that cold upper air temperature in the popcorn-looking clouds, and sometimes they get so well organized that they actually spin up a little vortex, and that's happening up in there. But across the rest of the Pacific Basin, very little, the eastern part of it anyway, very little activity. And there's really on the periphery here, well to the west of the date line, another storm that seems to be brewing in the far western Pacific, sorry. So this is interesting weather over the west coast of British Columbia today.